Okay, hi, I'm Maria, and I'm here with my friend Trevor Moawad, and he is an incredible, as we said, coach, works with all the top NFL teams, top college teams as well on strength conditioning. And I actually sought him out on the internet. I cold called him, cold messaged him, because I thought to myself, what he teaches people like Russell Wilson and others, he could teach all of us how to mine our minds, how to control our minds, how to strengthen our minds in our everyday lives. And so this is a really special moment because he's here working with UCLA. He's going to be working with that team and trying to get them to beat USC and everyone else. But so Trev, I want to thank you for coming in. And I thought
pleasure.
we could start with really the whole world kind of in a way in a panic this morning and last night over Brexit, and people going, what does that mean? And they're panicking, and then they, as you just said, get 5 steps ahead. When there is panic, what's the best thing to do with your mind?
You know, it's the mind is a powerful tool, and one of the things you'll see in the athletic world is when you make a big mistake or something goes wrong or it's a big loss, we would call it catastrophizing. So that might be this is happening, and you immediately go 5 or 6 steps down the line rather than keeping your mind the discipline of this is what's happening right now and how do I deal with what's at hand. So I think nobody really knows how this will play out. You know, I'm not an expert in politics or the financial markets or things from that, but I do have friends that work in the industry, and I think the concepts of how we think and the discipline of our mind and the things that affect us and the way we talk to ourselves, they're universal.
Right.
So it's like gravity affects everybody, whether you believe in it or not.
You were saying to me last time we met, you work a lot with Navy SEALs, and they have to always go into a situation that is somewhat of a catastrophe, and they have 2 options, right? They can look at it as a challenge.
Yep.
Or they can freak out.
Yeah.
So this is a moment that people can look at a challenge or freeze.
Yeah.
How do you get your mind to think, all right, my life is okay, I could go about my business, I don't have to take everything out of the stock market right now, it's calm. How do you do that?
Well, I think a lot of it has to go back to sort of the fundamentals of the way the mind works. At a subconscious level, we have this dialogue in our brain, whether we want to have it or not, but there are companies that estimate it somewhere between 800 to 1,400 words a minute, and it's powerful. And it's saying, it's reporting facts at the moment. This is how I feel. This are the circumstances of situations. This is what the market's doing. These are what my clients could do. This is what my own financial situation is. And what that internal voice becomes is a marketing campaign for our future. And just like McDonald's, had 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles on a sesame seed bun. Now, I don't want to know that, but they did a great job marketing that, and I feel like I deserve a break today, right? McDonald's. We have our own campaign for ourselves.
So what do we do right now? Who's watching this? A lot of people are at home going, breathe, stop. What are the next 2 things to do?
Well, everything for us in the sports world is about process. So what can I control now? As you mentioned, the military, the SEALs, the Special Operations Unit, when they're faced with a difficult situation, you have 2 ways to look at it. Is it a challenge, which physiologically brings out the best in me if I view it as a challenge, even if there's 6 guys versus 100 of the infidel, or is it a threat?
Okay, challenge or threat.
Yes.
You can look at your life and everything in the workplace or in your daily life as a challenge or a threat. One empowers you, one disempowers you.
Physiologically, it's completely different based upon how we frame it in our own mind. There are people right now that are faced with everything that's happening with respect to Brexit that are looking at it as a challenge, and they will push through it, they will succeed, they will do well in spite of what's going on. And there are other people faced with the exact same circumstances, with the exact same background, that will view it as a threat, that will panic, that will look too far ahead, and ultimately not give themselves the best chance. Look, this is about giving yourself the best opportunity to manage a difficult situation. The thing that the industry that I work in, sports psychology, or largely the self-help industry, the reason it doesn't it's never really taken off. And there are people that do well, and the Tony
Yeah.
Robbins and things along those lines, but it doesn't take off because everybody thinks this is all about positivity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a difficult situation to be positive about.
Mm-hmm.
And it really isn't as much about positivity as it is about managing negativity. The unique things that make Alabama football so great, it's not that our players, 107 guys, are all positive. It's that when we're faced with a 103 degree day, 93% humidity, we don't verbalize negativity. And attitudes are contagious. They're like the flu.
Okay, so that's a really good point. I want to stop you there because for mothers who are out there, fathers, they wake up in the day, they're home at dinner. I think people kind of express negativity almost without understanding or without knowing, and that bleeds into the rest of the house. So not expressing negativity is a really important way of controlling your mind and being positive.
When we verbalize it, it has 10 times the power that it has when it lives within our own mind.
When we verbalize negativity,
Yes, when we verbalize anything, positivity or negativity. And I like to say, and we talked about it when we wrote it in your column, was it's not that we're positive here and that we're negative here.
mm-hmm.
Positive has its own scale, to the degree of which you're positive to less positive. Negativity is the same way. So like I say, is if you're running a race and it's the final 100 yards, you got 100 people cheering for you, that's positivity. You got 100 people booing for you, that's negativity. What the athletes I work with, we try to reduce the booing, and that is the verbalization of negativity. And we do it so much, so often subconsciously. We get on the phone and we say, I don't know if I'm going to be able to deal with the situation. I can't handle the way my child's behaving. Like my mother used to always tell me that I never cleaned my room. And I remember thinking, and I'm not about to clean my room. Where she would affirm for me negatively, not intentionally, of what I was. And I think the best coaches affirm what they want to see from you. And I think
That's what I like. I'm going to stop Trev there because
Yeah.
what I wanted him to be able to, like every parent out there is a coach in a way. And we're all trying to figure out how to bring out the best in our children,
Yeah.
the best in ourselves, the best in those who work with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so since that's your expertise, you're really saying to parents and to women, moms that I talk to a
the
lot,
people dealing with what's going on today.
what's going on
Universally.
in the workplace is to stop, really, look at the situation in a positive way, but then also think about how you can bring out the best in your child, in your husband or wife or partner, right? That's
Right.
what you're saying. So it takes you a while to kind of change your mindset, right?
Well, I think the first thing that we all can control is reducing negativity. When you grow
On the
up,
internet, the booze in your head,
Everything.
the people that troll you, the negative comments,
But-
reduce them.
and that's always within our control. You know, in 1986, one of the most famous mistakes in sports was a guy named Bill Buckner, and he let the game-winning run score on a ground ball through his legs. Well, 12 days before, he was interviewed, and he said, I don't want to be the guy that lets the game-winning run score on a ground ball through my legs. Now, obviously, he didn't want that to happen, but our own words predict and perpetuate our future, for better or for worse. You know, there's a story of
So you're saying he kind of manifested that?
he manifested it by verbalizing it, whether he believed he did or not. And there are people right now that are dealing with the situation that we're going to be able to overcome it or we not. In 2009, you know, I worked for a big sports agency, IMG, and, you know, you only make money off marketing, endorsements, all those different things. Well, obviously the world economy collapsed. And how the leaders within the organization were going to manage that and really plot that way forward was critical. So right now the leaders in organizations have to be very careful about how they communicate how they feel. Mm-hmm. One of the great things that I've learned being around Nick Saban or Jimbo Fisher is they are at their best in the most challenging moments because they look at things in a process-oriented approach. What can I do right now to move us this next step forward?
That's interesting because in watching just the NBA finals, right, everybody would have thought, oh my gosh, the Cavs are down 3-1. They'll never catch up. We kept hearing it's never happened before.
Right.
A team has never done this. And it really, I would have loved to have been in that locker room because it was all about positive looking forward, right? Not paying attention to what hasn't been done, but what can be done.
And at the end of the day, the game was going to start out 0-0. Tomorrow's going to be a new day. If the market's down 400 points or 500 points, the fact is there have been times where the next day it goes up 700 points. Nobody knows. And this is where calm prevails. And again, leadership is a verb. It's not a way people describe you, it's something you do. And if you're the leader of an organization, this is when you have to be at your best. And the best athletes, a lot of times, you can't tell when they're facing a real good moment or a real bad moment. They stay very poised.
Yeah, how do you do that? How do they do that? I watched that in the Super Bowl. You work with Russell Wilson, they're, a couple seconds left and they're calm.
It all goes down to that internal marketing campaign. So we know that there's this concept, Maria, called the Law of Substitution. So yeah, we have all these thoughts going on, but we can only think about one thing at a time. So if I asked the people out there and said, hey, don't think about the Eiffel Tower, it would be hard for them not to think about the Eiffel Tower, or they're saying, I wouldn't think of it, Trevor, if you would shut your mouth. The reality is the outside dialogues can impact us, but if I tell myself, what can I control now? And I discipline myself to whatever I'm telling myself is what I'm going to think about. And if I'm thinking about what I'm doing right now, and I can only think about one thing, then I can't be thinking about the other things. The best athletes, when we walk into a stadium, we know there's 95,000 people there. We might know there's 300 million watching, but what we're focused on is the discipline to what do I need to do right now to do my best. So it might be how I drive my arms forward, how I kick my knees, how I interact with the people around me. It's the best athletes in the world, 80% of the time, they're right here. The discipline is here. 10% in the past, 10% being mindful of the future. The average recreational competitor, 40%, they're thinking about the past, 40% they're worried about what might happen in the future, and only 20% of the time they're right here, right now.
And that could apply really to all of us who parent. That applies to how we run our homes.
No doubt.
How we run our lives. That's why I think it's so important that what Trev has been able to do with Super Bowl champions, we can do in our everyday lives. We can do it when we get up. We can do it in how we speak with our children. We can do it in how we manage our homes or Super Bowls, right?
No doubt.
It requires the mind of a champion every day if you want to raise empathetic, kind, motivated kids, right?
I think, one of the most amazing things for me, my dad, Bob Moawad, was so good at affirming what I was capable of becoming. If you walk into the locker room at the University of Alabama, you'll see, we are a team that's at our best in the fourth quarter. Our offense plays this way, our defense plays this way, and we speak in the first person present tense about where we're headed in the future. Now, we're not saying, I think people confuse self-esteem with grandiosity, like I'm lying to, I can't tell you that the market's great when it isn't.
But
Nobody's saying that.
But I could do, for example, we are a family when we are a family and we are at our best when we're kind to each other. We are a family and we are at best
Right.
when we love each other. We are a family and we are at best when we forgive each other.
This is who we are. This is how we behave. These are the standards that we adhere to within our home. And
that's the same thing that you're doing with a team that we could do at home and that we could do in a business. When we come in here,
Yeah.
we are at our best when we have a clear direction, when we work together.
And the reason that works is because it works, right? It takes what it takes. That's why I think what people don't understand is it's how I sleep, how I eat, how I talk to myself, how I interact with other people. These are foundational things that the successful people, the successful families, the successful teams do what the unsuccessful teams, people, and families don't like to do. And it takes discipline to not verbalize negativity. It takes discipline to stay in the moment. It takes discipline when my son or daughter isn't doing what I'd hope she's doing to tell them, to plot a different course for them, to hold them accountable, but also see them as something or as somebody who can be different. And, you know, the famous German philosopher Goethe said, treat people as they are, and they remain that way. Treat them as they're capable of becoming, and you have a chance to move towards a different outcome.
Repeat that.
Treat people as they are, and they will stay that way. Treat people as though they're capable of becoming something different, and they have a chance to become something different.
So really be aspirational in a way. Don't play to people's fears. We see that kind of in the political field right now. And I think people are always yearning for somebody who asks more of them, who presents a better vision, right?
And this is, so I went to Occidental College up the road, and I was a politics major and had a chance to study Jack Kemp and a number of those things there, and I got my master's in social sciences. So I've been very attuned politically just over the years, just not really hugely, I guess, involved, but somebody that watches it and looks for the inspirational, the aspirational, and the different types of leaders, you know, very similar to your uncle. And if I was evaluating our two political candidates now, just objectively, if they were, let's say, college coaches, okay, to me, both of them would, if we had 16-game seasons, would have about 4 wins and about 12 losses. And if you look at how they're different from a great college coach, in the college or pro sports, everything is about who we are and what we're going to do and what we're selling as the leadership of the program. We don't ever talk about the opponent we're playing. Now, we might study them.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So it's all about what we do because we always control that. When I listen to both these candidates, now, again, it could be soundbited to some degree, but
it's always about what's
it's
wrong
always
with the other
about this person does this. So what are they really selling? They're selling the negativity or the poor habits or poor decisions or poor background of the other person. But what am I really buying? And if I'm going to make America great again, or I'm going to then
stronger together,
right? And I've been on teams that, you know, we've won 6 games and lost 8 games, and then the new coach comes in. He's not talking about what the other coach did poorly. What does that do?
So if you were kind of working, if you were the hired coach for either one of these two presidential candidates, your advice would be focus on what you're presenting, focus on your team, your words, your aspirations, visualize where you want to go. Don't even look at that person.
Well, what I can tell you is that's what the best coaches in sports do. And their job is to lead a team. And it's big business. Sports, my wife always, when we go and we're places in the South, it's hard to understand why it's so important to people. It seems like other things should probably be more important than a football game. But the reality is when you win, the ROI for a team or an organization or a school can be 70, 80, 90, $100 million. I mean, that's the GDP of some small countries.
So, Trev, we talk here a lot about architects of change, and they are, by our definition, people who challenge what is, imagine what can be, and move humanity forward. And I want to ask you, what are you challenging? What are you imagining, and how do you feel you're moving humanity forward?
Well, I think what I'm passionate about is helping people understand that their past doesn't predict their future. And that's for better or for worse. Ultimately, as people, as parents, as husbands, as wives, as daughters, as children, as coaches, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, we're going to be defined by what we do today. And the thing that I've learned in my 16 years in the sports world, my 4 years as a teacher, and my many years as a college athlete, is that when you form a habit, that habit forms you. And the more that you can help people stay hopeful that they can change, when you become helpless, you become hopeless.
So you're challenging helplessness. You're challenging
Exactly.
the idea that your past limits you. You're imagining that anybody can succeed if they tell themselves the right story.
Yep.
And you're moving humanity forward by helping people see the positive in them, the empathy in them, and the champion in them.
The simple fact of the matter is change is inevitable.
Right.
How we grow through it is optional. And I think that that's a really powerful component a lot of us live in this comfort zone, which is kind of like a grave with the end kicked out. So we're always like hitting our head on the top of this grave when we're living horizontally and we're not going vertically. We're not seeing that different path, and we get comfortable in our own mediocrity. And I think my goal is to help people understand that if they it's not complex, Maria. You know it. The things that you've been able to accomplish in your own life, your kids and your family, people want to believe there's a 5-step magical formula or there's a pill we can take. It's hard work. And sometimes the discipline to believe that you can change your future, that's hard work too.
Yeah.
The discipline to not spew negativity. Look, I don't know if positive thinking works all the time, but I do know that negative thinking does work. And it works negatively. And if I have one choice or the other, I'm going to aim towards the other side.
Negative thinking does work in the wrong direction. So I want to thank Trev for coming today. I think it's so exciting for us. He's going to be coming back several times because, as I said, he's working with UCLA and they can use you and they need you. But I think that you have so many great insights for all of us, whether we're a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad, whether we have a small company, whether we want to run for politics and we want to lead. Each of us can be a Super Bowl champ in our own homes, in our own lives, and on behalf of others, if we have the discipline, if we challenge those negative thoughts, imagine ourselves that way, and that's what actually moves us all forward. So I want to thank you so much, Trev, for coming. And you can follow him on Twitter. I do, because he puts out these great positive quotes all the time, and I'm like, damn, that was a good thought. So I follow him, and he's really inspirational.
Thank you.
And I suggest you do the same if you want positive thinking. So thanks, and he'll come back.